It's fun. It's wild. It's Dad's Gone Crypto.
Welcome everybody to Dad's Gone Crypto, and today we have a fascinating guest, Michał Pospieszalski. Did I get that surname correct?
Yeah, you did.
Oh,
Pospieszalski,
who's
but for the first
Pospieszalski?
time you pronounced it, that was great.
I've been practicing the whole day. I'm like, Pospieszalski. I broke it down into multiple syllables.
Yeah, it's
Michał
good.
is the CEO of MatterFi, which is a B2B company specializing in decentralized security and securing everything that really matters. Michał is a Polish American who's been hacking since the age of 15, worked in the intelligence space, and hacked everything legal from airlines to slot machines to voting systems. Michał, welcome to Dad's Gone Crypto.
Hey, Sean, great to be here.
Over the past 5 decades, you've learned a lot, which are some essential chapters in your life that you could reflect back on that set you on the course to get into crypto. Not giving your age away by any chance.
Man, I look way better than 5 decades, but yeah, I'm 50. I'll be 51 next week. So,
51, yeah.
um, I mean, what got me into crypto? I mean, I've been in computers since I was 15, right? And then I was doing a lot of hacking for like basically 2 decades. From like 15 to like 35, I was basically a
Mm,
professional security expert. After I graduated from college, I was like I went pro. Before that, I was just good at computers, and I just didn't really know it, right?
mm,
It was, the dawn of the PC age, right? So like my first computer was the IBM PC Junior, and I would like program on there, and then I would also play games, and I was like, oh, I like computers. And then very quickly, like sort of my natural mental state is to break things and make them better. Like that's how I
mhm,
naturally just like to think. Like I like to disrupt in the sense of like I want to break this and remake it and make it awesome, but in the most sort of positive way possible. Like
mm,
I don't like negative outcomes. I want positive outcomes, right? So my security career was based on doing software security analysis. So I worked at like Cigital, which was one of the very early companies. It got bought after I left, but it was one of the very early software security companies. And I was one of the like senior analysts there. And we did a lot of source code analysis, right? And this was like early, mid 2000s, mid
mhm.
90s, like early 2000s, like sort of that era. Because I did this till what about 2006, 2007. So in that decade, I learned just about everything there is to know about software security and the main problems with it. And then I I just got burned out on hacking, and like, because it was like my life was I show up someplace, in America, stay there for 2 or 3 weeks, or sometimes a month or two, and like hack, 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 then fix, fix, fix. Right.
Mm.
So like I would actually get in the code, identify these problems, and then I would go help the dev team fix it, or I would just fix it myself. And after a while, like you do that for like 5 years,
Mm.
you sort of get burned out on computers. And
Yeah,
I was also a chief technology officer inside the Beltway, and working for the government the whole time isn't exactly like a dream gig either for me anyway, right?
yeah,
Like given the sort of the personality tendencies I just showed you, I'm like
yeah,
her. I'm always I'm an immigrant, and I still love America, right? But I loved it more in the 80s, 90s, than I do today. Today, I think the
yeah.
politics are just screwed up massively.
Just crazy.
Yeah, and I don't think we're going in the right direction at all. And
Mm.
it's not no longer the the epic land of the free that it was.
Yeah,
But I'm still a loyalist, and I want to see it succeed. And my
mm.
business now is here. But the way I got into it was I wanted to build something that wasn't hackable. So I woke up one day, maybe 5 years ago, going like, okay, I want to get back into computers, and I see crypto is now, actually a mainstream thing. And there's really cool security properties that cryptography or cryptocurrency introduces to the
Mm.
software security space. So it turns out that I was friends with a fellow named Chris Odom and another fellow named Justice Ranvier, who've been working on a system that is now MatterFi, is now my company. And what that system does is it's a system where everything inside the computer is a cryptographic proof, meaning that like if you have two parts of the, I'll give you the simple explanation. If you have two parts of the software, part A, part B, in any sort of software today, like say client server, right? Client server. But once the client logs in, then it can just tell the server what to do. And as long as it's telling the server, anything that the server understands, it'll just do it. The same thing is true for actual internal software components. You can have like, two software components, modules, each running their own threads inside a machine. And if one sends a message to the other, generally, one say, oh, I got the right message, so let me just do this, right? And that's honestly actually the biggest problem in software security is that default assumption that everything, once it's on the inside, it's in the software, it should always be trusted. Yeah. Because over and over, like if you do software security analysis, you find this all the time. A terrific example is voting machines. I actually worked as a forensic analyst in the Antrim County case, and I can't talk about what I found there, but I've got recent voting machine experience that was legal. And one of the problems with these pieces of software is once you get past the sort of the crunchy external security, the system just trusts each other. So in like a voting machine, like here's a typical, I'm going to give an example that everybody can understand. Those ballot scanners, this is true for ES&S, Dominion, all these places. These ballot scanners, they generate output. This is the stuff I'm giving you right now is public data. I'm not revealing any under NDA, anything. Just want to make that clear. That this is all public data. It's all been published in many places, amongst others, in the proceedings in these lawsuits. But these scanners, they just generate output. And the output's like basically, okay, here's this index number like 01, and this one's for, candidate X, and 02 is for candidate Y. And, essentially that's just this record that just says 01 check mark, 02 check mark, 01 check mark, 01 check mark, 01 check mark, right? And then when it's time to tabulate, the machines, they just take this data file and they just assume it's all correct. Yeah. Like they just say, okay, what's 01 mean? Well, 01 means, this candidate, and 02 means this other candidate. And it just adds it up. And there's no error checking of like, the adding machine is not asking, well, is this data valid? Is there a cryptographic proof that this data is valid? And actually to do that, to have cryptographic proofs for all your data is not a simple task. But we did it. We did it at MatterFi. We made a library that now I'm going to show you it working in crypto, where every operation is a cryptographic proof. So what does that mean? Like in Bitcoin, it's really easy to see where the cryptographic proof is, although people don't use that term a lot. But it's like when I sign a transaction and I send it to the node, which then sends it to the miner, right? The node can validate it's a real transaction. How does it know that? Because it can check the cryptographic proof. The cryptographic proof is, I'm proving with my transaction that I can decrypt this public address that I'm about to spend. And that's why the money gets spent. So the miner and the node can just very quickly confirm this is a real person, and well, somebody signed with a private key, right? Because that's the security assumption. Yeah. So there's a lot of different cryptographic proofs, but that's the most basic one. Somebody signed with a private key. So now what we have in our system is all of computing works that way in our system. So the reason I got into this is now I can make a system that was unhackable, right? Because in software security, in my years of experience, I could literally break into anything. Like you gave me a piece of software, I'm like, give me enough time, it's going to be broken. There was not a single secure piece of software that I encountered ever, period.
The Apple phone?
I can't talk about the things I did because okay. Most of them are still under NDA. But sure. There was not, in 10 years of doing this, there was not a single piece of software that I could not break into. Sure. Given enough time. It was literally just a matter of like, okay, do I have a day? Do I have a month? Because if I have a month, I'm almost guaranteed to definitely get there, or at least get very close. It was just a matter of like, and then how much access you had to the internal data. Like if you have access to the source code, you can pretty much trivially break anything in a matter of an hour. Okay. You can figure out, oh, here's the vulnerability here, right? I mean, maybe it's a really complex piece of code. Maybe it'll take you a couple of days of analysis to figure out how to break it, but it's not going to be longer than that. If you don't have access to the source code, then you got to reverse, right? Which and it depends which language it was written in, but like things like written in .NET, for example, reverse back to the source code very quickly. Like it's really easy. So you can then just look at, oh, here's a password that's like hard coded right here, right? And you just find all the flaws like right away, right? And that's how you break things. So then, Chris Odom, my co-founder, invented this thing called Open Transactions, which is this engine where everything's a cryptographic proof. And then Justice Ranveer invented BIP47, which is pay codes for Bitcoin. And then at MatterFi, the two companies that were working on these projects before, we bought both of those companies. We put everybody on the same cap table, including all the old investors. And we created, now a commercially released piece of software that you can download. One of our clients is SwissFortress.com. And that's a Swiss AG that's running hopefully the world's best decentralized wallet, which I'm about to show you. And it uses some of the tech I was just talking about, but generally we're trying to solve a different problem. So that's the long answer to how I got into this and why. Sure. I really wanted to fix all of software security, and that's what I'm doing.
Very cool. I think you touched on a couple of points of some problems facing individuals and companies in the security space. Basically, it's the systems are not secure enough. And when you're trying to get people into crypto, I think it's difficult because there's a trust factor. You go like, will this wallet work? Will this technology work? Can it be validated? Can it be hacked? And then companies, if they're talking about multi-millions of dollars, they're worried that their money is going to go bye-bye. So, it's very interesting.
To stop you for a second, we fixed that. So, okay. So let me know when you want me to show it to you. Like that whole problem and the whole problem of theft and fraud in all of crypto, we have fixed. I can say that with 100% confidence at this point. And I know that's like a bold statement. I mean, it sounds like I'm crazy, but literally I can point to every hack that's been major, almost 90, not every, but I'd say 99.5% of the hacks that occur in the world in crypto, I can basically show you how our system fixes it, right? And if these entities were running our system and they installed it properly, and I'm not saying like our stuff's completely bug free, but we're extremely, given you got a software security expert as the CEO, we're extremely security focused. In fact, our whole thing is, the reason our stuff works is I'd say we call ourselves security maximalists. So we're not Bitcoin maximalists, we're security maximalists. We're taking decentralized security to like a whole nother level of crazy. Yeah. And that legitimately addresses, at the very least, conservatively, the statement I like to make is it definitely addresses all the theft and fraud, almost all of it.
Perfect. Do you mind sharing your screen with us?
So here's what I'm going to do, right? I'm going to start off let me share a screen.
Perfect.
And I'm going to give you sort of a tour of some of the features that I've been talking about here. Entire screen. Let's do that. Share. Okay, so here's one of our wallets, SwissFortress. So I'm going to show you how it works real quick, and I'll show you how it's set up and initialized. So in our world, there is a cryptographic proof between a globally unique name and the addresses that you receive on chain. But it's not like so I have this name like Mihao, and I can just send money to Mihao or any of these assets, right? So I have a bunch of contacts in here. So these are ones that I've been testing with too. And you see they're just all names. It's like PayPal, right? So I can go in here and I can see how much transactions I transacted with Mihao 3, for example. And this is Casper on chain. This is Ethereum on chain right here. But let me fire up another wallet and just show you what a transaction looks like and see how stupid easy it is. Now that as a user, you don't have to run these logs that I have down here. I'm just doing that because as a dev, I have to have the log running, otherwise I feel strange. If I'm not seeing console output, then I'm like, what's going on in my software?
It's your blankie.
It's my binky, bro. Yeah. So exactly. So let me just I'm gonna fire up another one of our client wallets called Ceres. This is for the Casper chain. I don't like the size of that font. I want you guys to be able to see stuff because sometimes there's cool stuff I can point out in here that comes up in the log besides it making me feel better. So we're going to go over here. We're going to go to Sarah's. I'm going to go into, okay. So our software is like 80% open source for export reasons, so we can freely export it. We have an export license.
Okay.
So you see it, the wallet came right up, the balances came right up. It's all happening in real time. Like you can actually see it like grabbing ERC20 tokens right now, which I'm going to end up here in a second. But this wallet's got the name Doghow. So now to send Ethereum to Doghow, all I do is I go in my SwissFortress wallet and I just say 0.01. Let's just do like 33, like a funny number so we can clearly see it. And I just go Doghow. Hit next, enter my PIN. This unlocks the private key in memory. I mean, we don't want users to really think about this. This is like a troubleshooting screen that you're not really going to see in production, but you confirm the transaction to the name, and that's it. I just sent real on-chain crypto. And you see I've done a lot of demos recently to that address, right? And looks like I think it just already went in. No, that was an hour ago. So if I go in here, I see I have a bunch of different contacts, right? I have Bartlett and I have Tester, et cetera, and I have ones that are blank. But the ones that are, to a particular name, like Doghow, or these are automated transactions. What does that mean? So if I look at one, I'll just look at it in Explorer. So this was, hold on, let me see if this was, I just click on the right thing. Back. Yeah, this is a Doghow transaction. Cool. And I'm just looking at Etherscan. So this is testnet coins on Etherscan. Come on, Etherscan, Earth to Etherscan. Why is my Etherscan not working all of a sudden? Okay, let's go to use a different example then. If Etherscan is not working, let's show you the same feature on Casper. There we go. Blockchain Explorer on Casper is working. So this is Casper Live. This is their Blockchain Explorer. I'm just going to look at the transfers here. So these transfers are between myself and this guy Doghow, right? So you can see that I sent them 6.67 Caspers here, right? I sent them 10, I sent them 5. And lo and behold, 5, 10, 6.67, right? They're in here. There's some spends also to other accounts, but did these 3 transactions went to this particular address, right? And yeah, there it is. So this is exactly my transfers to this particular account called Doghow. And so you might ask the question, okay, so who generated this address? This 70324. Did like Doghow somehow like send it to me through some encrypted channel that he posted somewhere? And the answer is no. The system dynamically computed these addresses. So every time that we send between 2 new people, 2 new names, we use a new address space. And the only people that know that this address is used by Mehow and Doghow is Mehow and Doghow. And you can see that these things match exactly, right? So like you've got 10675, 10675, right? Let me see. There's some more Doghouse here. 5588, 558877 is another one, right? So clearly this is the address I'm using, but the only people that know that is me and my recipient. So what this is PayPal for all the crypto, but it's using real crypto, right? At the same time, we've got other cool features we can do here. And let me see. Yeah, that Ethereum just already went through as we're just talking. So you can see that transaction there. Let me see if Etherscan's feeling better right now. And we're going to go take a look at here. Okay, Etherscan is now happy, right? You see this is the address space between Mehow and Doghow and Ethereum. It's a completely different address than what you saw on Casper, right? They're different chains, like you can't use the same addresses. But somehow my wallet always knows how to compute Doghow's receive addresses, which is the awesome magic here. right? So, and this works across all chains, all tokens. In fact, we've got, 1,200 tokens supported here. I've got some already loaded. So,
So Mia, I'll just go one step back. So you got two people that log on, they create accounts.
yep,
One Sean, one Mihao, right?
yep.
Um, is Sean unique to me, or is it unique to the platform? Can there be two
It's
Seans?
unique to no, there can't be two Seans. It's a globally unique name. That's one of the
Ah,
ways that Swiss Fortress will actually monetize this. Right now in beta, it's free. So you can go to swissfortress.com, download it, and then you can get a free name. But in production, we're actually gonna be charging for the names, right? So,
okay.
but that's it. That's the only fee. After that, like there's no extra transaction fees or anything. There's no token you have to keep putting in the machine. It's not a DeFi
Okay.
project. It's just get this name for $10 a year, transact all the crypto you want across all the chains. So what's awesome about this is say you're a political candidate, right? And you're like, I want to take crypto donations, but you don't want to reveal to people how much donations you got because maybe
Sure.
you sucked and you got very little. Or maybe you got a ton. In any case, you don't
Okay.
want people to know, but and you don't want to sit there and be like, okay, you want to donate? Here's my receive address. You want to donate? Here's my receive address, right? Oh, and which token which token are you using, right? And then different receive, and if you get this wrong, then you lose the money. And this is where
Yeah.
we lose like all the people, not except for the crypto bros like me and you.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're very confident in it, but we still do test transactions, right?
Yeah.
Notice in this system, you don't need to do test anything because the math is guaranteed, right? Like the math is not going to get your address wrong. We've literally tested this 100,000 times. Like we have a unit test that run that high. And so it's you're not going to lose money. You have 100% confidence. You can just send to the name. It's just like PayPal, Zelle, Twint, whatever, right? All these sort of payment apps. So that's really cool, right? That's the thing that I think, I love that feature. I love we created it. And with that feature, we can do a bunch of other things that are really interesting. So first of all, do you have any questions on that? Because I'm about to hopefully,
Just
give
the
you
on
more.
ramp. So, is there a platform where people can do fiat to on ramp into buy crypto
Yeah.
with the platform?
Yeah. So you're going to be able to do that here. Buy, sell. We're actually implementing that today. So just to show you like where this is. So why am I showing you like different brands of wallets? We MatterFi is a licensing company. We're a US company. Us operating a decentralized wallet out of America seems like, regulatory suicide. So we license, right? So all our customers tend to be Switzerland or Singapore, or Dubai or Asia. But
Okay.
what's interesting is now we have, and I can't talk about these guys yet, but we have some really big fintechs, coming on, like household names that, in whatever region you're in, you would have definitely heard of, right?
Okay.
Because they love this tech. Like they want their own version of Swiss Fortress inside their payment app or their bank app, because then they can go in and onboard all these crypto clients and just have this easy button that says deposit crypto here, it's for it to be insured at the bank, right?
Yeah.
And I'll get to how we do that part because we also have an entire custody system that plugs directly into the wallet using the cryptographic proof stuff that I talked about earlier.
Sure.
So this is where you get Swiss Fortress, SwissFortress.com, right? And we also have these Fortress IDs, which I'll talk about in a second. And we have this little explainer of like the old way of sending crypto versus the new way, which I think I already covered that. But this is where you get, you can get the wallet, join the beta. If you find bugs, you just go over to, where's our bug, report a bug in the wallet. And then if you're the first person to find a bug that we confirm, then you get a free name for life
Oh, brilliant.
top level name. So you can be like the Bill, the one and only Bill, at Bill, right? Because
Elon
everybody
Musk.
else, well, names like that we're actually reserving in the reservation system. So if you're a real
Okay.
celebrity, your name will already be pre-reserved. Then you just got to call us and like prove your real humanness, and then we'll give you the name,
Okay.
right? So you can't
Okay.
have people running around being like, Joe Biden 2024, or whatever, right? And they're actually taking all the
Sure.
donations. So
Mihal, just one question. All right. So one of the features is that people cannot obviously check out your transactions. So once your address is visible, then people can basically tag your address and find out who you're sending money to, who you're receiving, who you're donating to,
no,
and
no, they
track you.
can't. No,
No, not on
yeah,
your system, but
yeah,
traditionally,
yeah.
right? But
Tracy,
you've
yes. That traditionally, you're right. The problem is if you want to receive money, you got to send it to somebody. So unless you do that through a secure channel, which most people don't, you've now exposed your identity and your receive address, and after that, it's traceable, right? In our system, you post your name, like, I'll be fair. Last example was Joe Biden. Now you post Donald J. Trump 2024, right? and, and now people can just send you a flotilla of crypto, and no
Yeah.
one knows how much crypto you received. Like that's the beauty of our system.
From a legal
So
point of view, so where does the KYC come in? How do we prevent like this becoming like the dark web of
yeah,
applications?
well, that's where it gets really interesting. It's not a mixer. It's just an address autogen system, right? So,
Okay.
backing up for 1 second, SwissFortress, Sarah, SpaceDawgs.io is another client of
Hmm.
ours. So if you go here, you'll see that they're about to launch like probably on Monday.
Hmm.
But SpaceDawgs.io is another, client that's going to be using names as well. They're all in the same infrastructure and they all interoperable. And there's about to be a lot more apps that are going to be interoperable, like, really big household name ones.
Mm.
And so MatterFi just creates all these wallets and we create the tech underneath. That's why I have all these different wallets. And you might be like, why
Okay.
is he showing us this, right? But the best example right now is that's live today, is SwissFortress.com.
Okay.
But next week you'll be able to do SpaceDawgs as well. And then Ceres will
Mm.
be probably like a month out just because they're doing sort of more audit testing on the code.
Mm.
So that's where that's at. Now, your next question was, okay, is this like the dark web of wallets? And the answer is no. And here's why. I go here, and like I said, we'll look back, we'll go back to Etherscan, and I'll look at this receive address space. This is all chain analyzable, right? So it's not the chain analysis doesn't work. It's just that people don't know what receiving addresses you're using, right? But say you've got some tainted money, and you
Mm.
deposit that tainted money into your SwissFortress wallet, or any of the MatterFi wallets, and then you try to send that to somebody using our system, well, it'll still come up as tainted in chain analysis.
Okay.
So it's not a mixer. We could turn it into a mixer, but we deliberately did not turn it into a mixer because we're actually not interested in having a mixer, right?
Okay.
What we're interested in is having absolute transparency peer to peer and absolute ease of use peer to peer and privacy to third party attackers and observers and hackers, right? Like
Uh-huh.
that's what we're creating. So you have total transparency of your own transactions, right? And in fact, you can meet any regulatory standard. This is how you do it. So besides the chat being kind of cool, this is worldwide end-to-end encrypted chat that's implemented in the system. We've also got this notion of share fortress ID. If you click on that in the beta, you'll see it's coming soon. So it kind of doesn't tell you what it is, but let me tell you what it is. So this is our design reference right here, right? And then here I have Fortress ID. When I share my Fortress ID, I'm actually revealing my real identity to my counterparty
Okay.
in an encrypted, decentralized way. So what happens is users inside the wallet will be able to sign up for Fortress ID, multiple different versions of it. You can have one that's just got your name in it, another one's got like a copy of your driver's license, another one could have your passport, whatever, right? We run the KYC, that's done through a third-party check. That data comes back and now it's given to you, the user, and only you, the user, have a copy, right? But what we've done in the process is we've created a cryptographic proof. So here it says signed SwissFortress. This might as well be, you could have said, signed Brinks or signed UBS or signed, whatever sort of verifier brand you trust, right?
Mm.
And we provide this infrastructure that allows people now to hit the share button, and now their counterparty, like in this case, if CoinMaster shared it with me, that's this user, I can see his real identity. And what this does, it's a cryptographic proof between the on-chain addresses you're using, the name that you sent to or received from, and now that name's real identity. So now you can optionally provide before a transaction to your counterparty proof of who you are. And what's awesome about this is it's cryptographically infallible, meaning you can't somehow fake it. Like you can't take somebody else's Fortress ID and send money to them and somehow get it, right? Or you can't take somebody else's Fortress ID and pretend you're sending from them. The system just knows. It's just like it
Yeah.
knows when there's a fake website, like you got somebody pretending to be Microsoft.com. The alarm comes up, you get the
Yeah.
big red, don't go here. Well, our wallet's got the same feature. So what's really cool is then when one of the things that's coming to SwissFortress, this wallet, is atomic swap, worldwide swap that's got that identity feature in it. So let's think about the sort of implications of that. It means that every institution on planet Earth that's got KYC requirements can now suddenly meet them overnight on chain.
Sure.
And we got it to work on DeFi. So now we can have it, so we can retrofit like a Uniswap, and now the Uniswap understands identities. And it can and for certain transactions can just say, oh, we can't serve you because you don't have the right, KYC. Okay. So all of a sudden now all of regular institutions can use crypto, which is why, we're in the midst of a lot of institutional adoption. Right. So that is a tour of the wallet. Of course, there's one more thing I want to show you. So I showed you the send a name. Obviously, this thing's also got, legacy receive. Like you can, generate addresses in here. Hold on, let me go back to the main asset screen and oops, hit Ethereum, right? Hit receive. Oh, there's a bug here. See, look, I just found a bug. It won't let me receive anything except tokens right now.
But you generate plug that into the context.
No, I can. Yeah. You can be crypto, Sean. I got you.
Thank you.
So here, you got our legacy address, but we'd rather have you use the system, and then once we have the buy sell on ramp here, that's not going to use username and passwords or anything. Like we're doing a special deal with one of the major well-known onboarding places and crypto banks to be our on-ramp, and they're actually integrating our system. So we actually use that off-chain functionality to do the on-ramp. So you have cryptographic proofs buying your crypto off-chain, then depositing it to you on-chain. It's really cool. So you don't need a username and password at all. You just get in here and you say hit buy. And that's it. And of course, we were like, well, there's one vulnerability in this, which is the hardware wallet, right?
Yeah.
So, of course, I got you. Crypto Meow got you. Hold on a second. So, I'm gonna just stop the screen share, and I'm gonna show you the crypto wallet. So, ta-da! The crypto. Whoops, upside down. Oops, the other way. There we go. Whoops, upside. Wait. So this is a SpaceDawgs wallet, which is for the SpaceDawgs wallet. There's also going to be a SwissFortress and a Ceres, and some co-branding between SwissFortress and ESG project. Doing like donations to Africa. Okay. We're doing a lot of that right now. Like extremely busy with this. Getting this out the door. So the beta has been very successful. But what does this do? This stores your private keys. This is a patented hardware wallet that was made by us, Tangent, and Samsung in partnership. And this is what it looks like if you don't print stuff on it. Hold on.
Yeah, that's very cool. There you go.
Right, so you got an NFC chip. This is made by Samsung, and it's got our firmware and Tangent's firmware on there. We have this exclusive partnership with Tangent where we're making these special wallets that have all the Tangent features plus everything I just showed you. It supports the chat, the encrypted chat, the decentralized send to name. The Fortress ID is all supported by this card. So now you just tap the card, right? So now and it also supports the off-chain crypto. So when you're going to buy crypto with our wallet, you want to buy, you're going to enter your fiat information, like this is the bank account I'm using to buy, here is the, whatever, right? And then you're going to tap, and voila, you have a cryptographic proof of that purchase. Now you don't need a username and password. So think about that for a second. You don't need a website at all. Like that whole Coinbase thing where it's like, or actually really every DeFi project ever, log in here, connect to Web3.
Yeah.
No one really wants to use that shit.
No.
That's just crazy. That's the only reason we're doing that is there's a bunch of geeks that understand it enough to use it, and those geeks are cool with it. But it's obviously broken. Regular users are gonna be like, connect to Web3. MetaMask, add token, blah blah. You lost them, right? And that's been that's the thing that we fixed, right? It actually fixing that problem is incredibly technical. We have 700,000 lines of code. It's to make it that simple and that easy, like I just showed you, is really hard. It's a hard problem.
So would the software reside on your mobile phone, because that's where you can tap it? But how would it work if you got a laptop and would you have to get it?
Yeah, so we're going to be getting you a NFC reader for laptops. They'll be available. So you can use the wallet on your mobile and your desktop. Right now, we just released desktop because desktop was like the first development target we had because we do a lot of extra computation to do all this. So it's
Okay.
like it was easier to get out on desktop. But the mobile will be out in about like 4 to 6 weeks,
So how would
along with the
exactly it
card.
work with your desktop?
Desktop, you would just have to have an NFC reader, right? And
Okay.
then it
All
works like
right.
a Trezor or a Ledger, except there's no screen. So you put in a PIN, which is initialized inside the card when you first set it up. So like the only vulnerability in the card is you're going to make sure that when you're setting it up, like there isn't somebody snooping on your PIN, for example.
Okay.
That said, we're also going to be making Trezor Ledger sized devices. So you're going to have every option. So the card is really cool though, because it's way more affordable compared to like a Trezor or Ledger. We're going to be reducing the cost on that. We want to, like, one of the major use cases, like we have a client now that's got 500,000 farmers all
Sure.
over South America. And these guys are already transacting crypto, but they want to do it in a non-janky way, right? The UN is already sending refugees in Ukraine crypto. Like
Okay.
that's already happening, but they're doing it with like a system that I would describe as janky. It's not ours, right? And
Yeah.
I'm not saying it just because it's not ours, but it's sort of like the static address management where they're trying to make it easy for people. But if you do it with static addresses, then what you have is the friend.tech hack. You have the problems you have with unstoppable domains and ENS, which is it's trivially easy to find out what somebody's balance is. Here, let me show you. You want to see somebody's
Yeah.
balances on unstoppable domains? Because I love doing this part.
Yeah.
So this is not a real hack. This is me just, I'll tell you how I did this hack. But it's not hacking, it's just a feature. I'm just, I'm just kind of abusing a feature, right? So really easy. Let me share screen again. So I'm gonna give you the entire screen. So here's the share. I'm gonna give you the quick little overview. So you're gonna get a little glimpse of the pitch deck, which is even in this market collecting funds. So and I'm very proud of that because it's the world's shittiest fundraising market right now if you're in tech or
Mm,
crypto.
mm.
Like it's
Fully agree.
bad news every freaking week. But let me pull up the press deck. So we're gonna just zoom through the deck here. Go to one of my favorite slides, which is the competitive matrix. Oh my God, there's all this empty space. Why is that? Well, the self-custody wallets don't have an off-chain cryptographic engine that lets you talk to the custody system, right? So that example I just gave you a little while ago of like that on-off ramp, that's going to be
Yeah.
running our custody system. So now the wallet can just send a request to buy crypto just as if it would send a request to spend to a miner on chain. When you do that, all of a sudden you've solved all these problems at once, right? Because we're both a self-custodial wallet company and an institutional custody company, right?
Mm.
And coincidentally, we solved unstoppable domains, ENS, these problems. And I say they're broken with 100% confidence. Let me show you, right? Like, I mean, I know I'm making like a bold statement. Unstoppable domains raised $65 million at a 1 billion valuation last
Sure.
year. I have, no idea what they're thinking. Uh, Maybe a lot of people, went there and were like, oh, let's get an unstoppable domain. It sounds good. Because if you look at the advertising, it sounds really good. It sounds like that way to make crypto really easy to use, right? A
Yeah.
name for getting paid. So yes, you assume that like this name called Sandy.nft is somehow private. So like if I post up Sandy.nft publicly, no one knows how much money Sandy got. And you assume that, but it's actually not true. What they're doing is they are storing all of Sandy's receive addresses, which she has to manually input into their app, and they're storing them on chain. So if I wanted to, tomorrow I could write a scraper for unstoppable domains that just tells me the entire payment history for everybody that's ever used it, how much money they received, when they received it, etc. As a
Sure.
simple example, right now, there's a YouTuber. I have no beef with this guy. It's just somebody that, somebody was like, well, show me how you can look up unstoppable domains transactions. So hold on 1 second. Where is it? Oh, there it is. This is from like about a month ago, but this was his balance. Right. So his name is Hashoshi.crypto. He has 3,700 bucks in tokens. Plus, I got his entire transaction history on Ethereum. And the way I did that is I just opened up Trust Wallet and I started to set up a transaction. And in there, you can see the receive address. I put in Hashoshi.crypto and then it starts to set up the transaction and it looks up his receive address. And I just find the receive address on chain and I just put it in Etherscan. That's the
Wow.
hack.
Jeez.
So anybody you interact with, but it could be far worse than that. You could just write a scraper that just posts the entire history, or even post it
Yeah.
as a tool. And I don't even think it would really you're not even hacking anything. It's just this data is public, right? So for to not make a mess, I'm not going to do that because I'm a white
Mm.
hat. But that's a huge problem that we're solving in the privacy space, right?
Now tell me the difference between your technology and a ledger and a Trezor and that is it similar? Is it different? Because you're showing a card that's perhaps $15, right? And
Correct.
I think my Nano over here, which I'm still wanting to set up, that's a few $100s, right? So like, how
The
different
only
is it, and how's it?
the only difference is the card does not have a screen. But like I said, we're making Ledger and Trezor devices. They'll be out next year. And the only difference in the underlying workings is like, okay, the way we sign transactions is the same way. The way we
Mhm.
generate receive addresses is also using all the standards. Like otherwise it just wouldn't work, right?
Sure.
You can see that I can see the addresses in Etherscan, the nodes are validating them, everything works, right?
Mm.
All we're doing, we have extra code that creates all this automation. And it creates all that off-chain stuff. It's substantial code. On the wallet itself, there's a very small footprint because to make all this work, we actually fit it inside that tiny chip, which is
Yeah.
really cool. That was like the sort of an engineering feat. It took about a year. But, we're not a huge team yet, although I think that's about to change. But it's exciting to be able to do that. So the only difference really is the way the transactions work sort of atomically on chain, like individually, that's the same as Trezor Ledger. But we have this
Okay.
extra code that allows for the automation, for the address computation, for the enhanced identity, right? So basically, like if we could, right? If Trezor called me up tomorrow and said, "Hey, Mihao, we want these features inside Trezor," I'd probably say yes, right?
Mm.
Because I think it would be a good partnership.
Yeah.
We'd work out some sort of license deal, and then now you could send the name with Trezors too, right? So the hardware that we're using isn't nearly as important as the software that we've created for the hardware. As long as the hardware is secure, meaning you can't load new firmware on it just
Yeah.
arbitrarily willy nilly, which unfortunately a ledger just had that problem, right? And I don't know
Yeah.
what this is not a hard thing to fix right away in hardware. Like hacking hardware is like one of the things I got really into, which is why I've written 9 patents for MatterFi. And a lot of them are related to this sort of interchange between hardware and software because you want that bomb-proof, easy to use, HSM essentially, hardware security
Yeah.
module. And you can have different versions of it. Like in our custody system, we have like the big version of it. In the wallet, we have the tiny version of it. And then in like a Trezor Ledger size thing, we have the middle version of it. So it's a software difference. As long as the hardware is solid, then we're happy to make that happen.
Perfect. And tell me, so this is basically taking away the actual private keys, right? Private keys that you actually have to write down or store or take a picture of or keep in your safe. Do you still
Well,
have to keep it
yes.
somewhere?
No, you still it's SwissFortress. You do generate keys, and they'll ask you to register a name after you generate the keys, and then we tie cryptographically your public data, your essentially in technical terms, it's like XPub or pay code to the name. And we store that, and then we store that on chain, and that is public. But the thing about our algorithm is, even if you have a complete list of all the users for SwissFortress ever, you still don't know what any of them did on chain because the
Okay.
wallets are the ones that are computing the receive address via this one-way, non-interactive cryptographic proof. And the signal data for that is encrypted. So there's no way to tell who's doing what, right?
Mm.
And there's no way to tie back. Like you can have a user list of all my identities, 20,000 handles or whatever. Like friend.tech had, that leak where they were basically doing users by Twitter handle, but then they were
Mm.
storing the static Ethereum receive address, right next to that. So obviously now you know who did a lot of transactions with friend.tech and you can go target those people. because they're on social media, right?
Yeah.
So we solved that problem. So the private key is still there, right? So the private key is still absolutely there. And then what we will be offering inside of SwissFortress, and actually all our wallets, we're setting up some really interesting partnerships right now where you'll be able to key escrow with some very well-known entities that are already doing it, right? So you'll be able to just sign up and be like, save my password to blah, 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 or save my seed to this place. And you have a choice as a user. You'll be able to self-custody if you want. Like, so it's just displayed on the screen once. You never see it again. You better stick it in your safe, or you'll be able to back it
Okay.
up, or both, or any of three combinations. So we'll be offering self-custody backup. We'll be like to your iCloud, for example, with a biometric ID. We'll be offering multi-party computation backup of the third party. We'll be offering like if you trust one person with your keys because they're a big enough entity like from CeFi that you trust, then you'll be able to use that too. But we make that the user choice, right?
Okay.
And then the keys are what allow all the address autogen. That's what makes it all work. But we're also solving that usability problem. But I would just say that, hey, the key escrow is actually the easy part. Like that's really easy. There's like a million different ways to do it. Everybody knows what they are. There's no secrets really there. There's not patents in that space. It's like,
Okay.
very well published stuff. So that's for us, that's trivial, right? So basic clients just tell us, okay, which kind of key, this is the key escrow I want in my wallet. So the answer to your question is, does it do away with private keys? No. Does it do away with the usability issues of the private key? Yes. Of having to save it and back it up? Yes, depending on which wallet you're using and what you're comfortable with.
Okay. And Michal, the multi-sig wallets. So there's a lot of businesses that want to start into crypto. They're dealing with a lot of directors or founders. But if they're launching, like say, an NFT project and they want to start receiving funds, how does the multi-sig wallet? How does your multi-sig wallet differ from the others?
I have a slide on that. Would you like to see the
Fantastic.
slide?
I'd love to see the slide.
Okay, back to screen share. Here we go. So far I've showed you the wallets, right? So you saw the
Yeah.
Ceres wallet on screen, right? And I showed you how the on-chain stuff works. Well, it turns out in our custody, we run a direct to multi-sig custody system where basically you set up X amount of nodes and then Y out of those X, or actually X out of Y is always a better sounding example. I say 3 out of 5 hold the money, or 7 out of 11, or 11 out of 15. So this is really interesting because you've got, so directly that, and that it's a multi-sig payment code. It's a unique one that's generated for every user that interacts with the system, but it's multi-sig by default, meaning users just deposit to this multi-sig payment code. No one can see how much they deposited except the person receiving the funds, which in this case would be the institution or the custodian. And they have full KYC of that transaction. So in step one, you've got cryptographic guarantees both ways. This person, the custodian over here on the right side, knows that Michal really deposited and they got my real ID, because presumably before the transaction, they were like, well, before you deposit, send me your real ID. Otherwise, we got to send the money back, right? So they know who I am, and then I know who they are. Like, this can't be phished. I have cryptographic proof that I'm depositing into the right place. So like all those phishing scams where you're like, oh, this is the real Binance.com, send your crypto here, like what just happened like a million times. Like that's the classic phishing scam. They send you an email like, oh yeah, Binance wants to do a deal with you, crypto project. They even tried that on me, and I was like, man, they got the wrong guy. like, I just don't have time for it. Anyway, so cryptographic guarantee of deposit, right? This is, by the way, how our on-off ramp will also work, is that I'm getting ahead of myself, excited to share ahead of myself. So you deposit you're going from here to here and you deposit. So first of all, it's a cryptographic guarantee. The second thing is you're depositing the direct multi-sig. This isn't a single address that's been reconstituted somehow. Fireblocks does that, which is a weaker way of doing this, because it's a harder mathematical problem to have unique multi-sig automatically generated addresses that have been automatically KYC'd, then just sending to some static address your system generated and then splitting the keys. So there's a huge difference between what we're doing and what Fireblocks is doing. What's hilarious is we got 9 patents on this, coming. They raised $1 billion. They have a $10 billion valuation. We built this whole thing for $4 million.
Wow.
So in multiple down markets. right? We never had the benefit of the bump, right? Because we literally started in the last, well, there was a little bump in 2021. We raised the money then right at that bump. But every other time I've been doing this, crypto winter, both sides,
Yeah.
like so. I'm very proud of that. Anyway, back to the custody system, right? So now you've got this money being held in 3 out of 5 multi-sig, right? Normally multi-sig that would be controlled by people or be controlled by some API. But here's where the magic really happens for us. So first of all, as an external attacker, you have to break into 3 out of the 5 chips because there is no external API, right? There's no thing that tells the chips when to release the money. And there's a huge reason for that, which is why this is here and not anywhere else. Because of this off-chain cryptographic engine in step 2 or step 3, when there is any operation that the user requests, there's a cryptographic proof sent to the chips, just like you would send a transaction to a miner on Bitcoin. So now the chips can always act autonomously on behalf of the user. They always know it's really me doing a withdrawal or a transfer, right? So say this is an exchange, I deposit Britco, I'm going to buy some Ethereum, sorry, I deposited Bitcoin, and I'm going to buy some Ethereum in step 2. I'm not doing a username and password. I'm not doing a manual deposit. None of that exists. I deposited the money to the exchange. I know I did. Now I see an off-chain balance. I got a cryptographic proof in my wallet of that. It looks exactly like an on-chain balance. Now I say trade. And when I hit the trade button and I enter my PIN, or I tap my wallet card, I am now doing an off-chain transaction based on cryptographic proof,
Okay.
which now means the chips are like, yep, this is me. How he's doing a trade. Done. You don't need to do anything else, right? Why? Because we know that it's extremely unlikely that somebody stole your private key. Sure, we can put in some, extra measure in there that says, okay, check with an admin if this transaction is over X, Y, Z, but you don't need it to work, right? That's the big difference. Is all these other systems need that to function because they can't trust their inherent security mechanism because there really isn't one,
And you
right?
can't really make a mistake because your name is attached already. So it's Meow,
There's
and I'm
no,
sending it to Meow. So there's no extra zero, not zero, number or numeral that you have to put
so you
in
can,
to make a
there's,
mistake. That's
there's
the
no
biggest
mistakes
fear. Is like,
possible.
did I get this number correct? So like,
So when you withdraw, so your example, okay, so now say I want to withdraw from, say this is Coinbase, like these days you got to put in an address and you're praying they get it correct. They're praying that it's really you. In our
yeah,
system, you don't have to pray at all. You can go atheist if you want, right? And you just say withdraw, and the chips are like, yep, this is me, Hal, and they sign multi-sig, all of them, and like voila. So that's the huge difference inside the custody system. So the custody
what
system can't
happens?
steal.
Oh, carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, custody system can't steal from its users because it doesn't have the private keys. And remember, we use the private keys just like we do on-chain and the off-chain. The second thing is, okay, so how would you steal from the system? Like besides breaking into chips, which is very difficult, right? Because these are self-contained HSMs that contain all the knowledge they need to verify if a transaction is real or not, and it's entirely relying on cryptographic proofs. So that's a huge state-of-the-art improvement. So how would you steal from the system? Well, the systems do need backup keys. So say you've got three out of 5 servers, and 3 of them melt down. Now only 2 are working, and withdrawals stop functioning because you don't have enough people in the multi-sig pool to be able to sign. Well, then you got to restore. So then we have multi-party computation around that restore. And now like, the owner of the custody system, the regulator, and, some other trusted third party all got to collude to restore this key. So you might ask,
Okay.
well, if it was possible to make servers that can't steal, why didn't anybody do this before? And the reason is to make this work, you have to have that off-chain cryptographic proof. When you do, now the only time you need to restore, these multi-party computation keys from backup is if you're loading new code or if you just have a server meltdown, which are both fairly rare occasions. So now it's possible to have a regulator actually give a cryptographic guarantee that the funds aren't going anywhere, which now prevents Mt. Gox, prevents FTX, prevents Coinbase hacks, prevents, probably half the DeFi shit that happened this week.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No, I think that answered my question. I just wanted to find out what happens if my partners had to get hit by a bus at 8 p.m. on Tuesday next week. would I still be able to transact? So that's the question. But yeah,
yes,
obviously with the backup keys and that. Let's just say obviously if they lose the backup keys and the hardware wallet it's gone missing, then technically you won't be able to ever get those funds back. Is that true?
correct. Yeah, either off or
Okay.
off chain. I mean, again, now if you lost some funds in the custody system and everybody at that business can verify they're your funds, they can recover them with using the backup, but that's a rare occasion. Like it's meant to
Sure.
be something that requires a heavy duty ceremony. So if they're stealing with it, you know who did it,
Yeah.
right? Like, so it would make a FTX, like it's not FTX is impossible. Like if Sam Bankman-Fried was using our system and somehow he coerced, all his business partners and all his regulators to, get around the MPC of the MPC
Yeah.
and they all colluded together. But, at that point, it's like, yo, bro, you're committing fraud. Like somebody would probably stop him and they had the
Yeah.
power to. Now they didn't, right? There was like a few people that had all the keys to all the assets, right? So they could just I want a Bentley today. Send, customer money
Yeah.
to some another shell company that happens to, pay cash for this car, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what was going on at FTX, right? I mean, roughly. I don't know if I got the details super accurate, but that's what it sounds like, you know?
Yeah.
So yes, you would
Just
lose all the money, but the way we're countering that is, we're having pretty effective key escrow. Now, if on the custody side, your custodian's so incompetent that they don't know how to manage their backup keys, then they shouldn't be a custodian. And I won't sell them the system. But I can tell you that all the people that are using our custody system, or about to use our custody system, are already like institutions that are either like mega banks. I mean, all names you've heard of, or they're extremely experienced crypto banks, or they're like
okay.
extremely experienced in crypto. I doubt that at any point, that any of the custodians using our system are going to mess up like that. I do think
Yeah.
that we're going to have some users of these that are going to lose their keys and have no backup, but it's like, that problem I can't fix for you if you didn't escrow it somehow. But we're going to be offering the escrow.
100%. And that also comes to my next question was the trust factor. Is that how do you creating technology, face value, I'm listening to what you're saying, but how do I trust what you're saying? Obviously you've got a product, but then how do you know that the code is correct? But the fact
So
that
that's
these
why
heavy
it's
duty institutional companies are coming on board, they can't get it wrong. If they get it wrong, they've got some serious problems coming their way from a regulatory point of view. So hence, as you get into the market and your product gets there and more institutions use it, it becomes almost like a gold standard to use.
Yeah, so that's what we're going for. I mean, but that's happening like today, like this week now. We only released the wallet 2.5 weeks ago. It's Thursday. Okay, so
Wow.
maybe, yeah. So like the Monday to, yeah, so 2.5 weeks ago. So, and before that, I had fans and people knew it was coming, but like no one really bought into it until they saw it work, right? And now that they
Yeah.
see it work, they're like, okay, it's coming. So the way we're addressing that trust issue, we are doing internal audits that we're going to publish of the proprietary code. We do have 80% of it being open source. So you can
Okay.
inspect it yourself if you really want. You got to be
Mm-hmm.
really good at C++ and want to look at 500,000 lines of code.
Sure.
So please, right? It's a tall order. It's not a small
Yeah.
code base.
Yeah.
And then, we've got these patents. The patents are all being published so you can see how we're doing it. I'm going to be writing white papers on the infrastructure. The institutional clients are coming on. They're doing their own audits. So like Saris, that wallet I showed you on the left side, that's going through a security audit now.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be complete probably like a month or two, I imagine. I mean, these things aren't fast. So we're going to keep building up the sort of trust, right? I get it. Like right now, it sounds like, Mihai, you got the holy grail of crypto. But, if you put some hostile code inside of this that tells me what your addresses or your keys are, then obviously it breaks too, right? But the way
Yeah.
we do that is all our downloads are digitally signed. So like the same way you have, download security in Microsoft and iOS and all these places, we're doing the exact same thing, right? So really, it's going to be extremely difficult. I never say impossible or unhackable, but extremely difficult for anybody to backdoor the software that way.
Okay.
Because you'll be able to just verify the hash, for example. Like you could run your own hash on our binary and see that this is the valid published hash, right? So, but we're going to be automating all that. Like we want it to be like, Apple, like
Yeah.
we want it to be the Apple of crypto. Like we want it to just be super easy to use. Most people aren't going to bother with that, but we're putting all this stuff, all this automation on the back end. That's where the size of the code base comes in. So
Exciting times. Exciting times. Mia, I know you got some time constraints. Just a couple of quick questions, and just
okay.
changing gears a little bit. The technology, it's exciting and it's much needed in the space, but just a little bit behind. Our audience is crypto dads getting into the space. It's people building. It's people trying to to get into the space safely, and it's definitely a product they should look out for through a third-party vendor like SpaceDawgs and that.
Well, they can also just contact MatterFi and we'll just build it for you. Like, so MatterFi's main business, in fact, its only business is like, SwissFortress didn't exist 2 months ago. Like it was just a idea of a guy in Switzerland.
Okay.
Right. So, that's the thing we do. Like if you're starting a DeFi project, then you're probably going, okay, I'm going to make my DeFi protocol and then I'm going to use it with MetaMask. And that's where you already lost most of your users. So, what we're here to do is like, call me and we'll build it with you, right? Like we can make the DeFi understand identity, like, and I've most of my clients that we have now have experienced significant fundraising success. Like all the projects that you're seeing that I showed you have raised funds off of being partners with us.
Wow.
All of them.
Wow.
So it's like, and the reason is, they really stand out. It's not just another DeFi. So if you're trying to build, Mihao at MatterFi.com, and I'll put you in touch with our sales team. MEHOW at MatterFi.com. And then the MatterFi website sucks right now. I'm going to fully admit it is awful. SwissFortress is great. And the MatterFi site's being redone like as we speak. So the new one will be out in a couple weeks. Right now it doesn't even look like a real project. Like you get on there and you're like, this does not look like it's real. And I know that, but we've been prioritizing like getting the product out, making the product awesome, making the customers happy. And we have been cash constrained. Yeah. We've been cash constrained for like over a year now, like, since last summer when the crypto winter hit us again.
Bloody bear market. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I got a strange feeling things are going to change rapidly for you guys. It's amazing stuff.
Cool.
Mihao, just quickly, just something which I was watching one of your other podcasts and that on a mental health side, because obviously we give advice to the people in the space and that, 35 at the age of mid 30s, right? You had a bit of a burnout. We always do a mental health segment. You had done too much in the space. What did you do from 35 to getting back into building again? And what advice can you give people to not burn out besides not work?
Oh man, you really want the answer to the question of the dark period between 35 and 45? So first of all, confirm check that I burned out at 35. And then I was like, I became one of the world's top dating coaches. So if you look up Mihao PUA or anything, you'll see a bunch of old videos. I had a show on Yahoo, I had 6 million viewers. And I was very proud of that work because I helped so many people get married and stuff. And I'm married now, ring, see? And, I on the personal front, I think I'm doing very well, but I completely got out of that space and I got right back into crypto. But it was a sort of a refresher because I was like, I want to help people and I just did that. And now I'm helping people with the tech in the same way, but it doesn't have the same negative thing. Like, I'd say don't become a dating coach for sure, because you're going to be grinding out, hate like forever. In the 2006 era, like when Mystery was around, I worked for Mystery for a little bit and then I started my own company and it was very, very successful, like extremely successful, like overnight mega success. And the reception of my product, like I published 9 books, 2 of them were nationally published. They got like, but then Me Too came around and it just destroyed the whole men's movement, destroyed, positive dating at all. And we tried to run ads. I had a show on Yahoo where I was coaching women how to meet guys. It was called, Mr. Right. That was the show. And they canceled me because, the ad policy was like, well, there's no such thing as the 3-second secret to unlimited relationships. It's like one of our headlines. And I was like, there is. I've had 500,000 people, read this stuff and they all like, swear by it. So it was, the space got ruined. Right. And then, I would say from a mental health point of view, now we're dealing with the economic issue. I don't get hate in the crypto space because I'm just doing something so positive. I get hate in the crypto space because I was a dating coach. So I've had a few investors that like find out and they're like, this guy was a dating coach. So, he must be really good at talking. Obviously I suck at talking, but it's silly when like people are like, oh, you're good in relationships, so you must suck at tech. I mean, it's like,
like, come on now.
So at some point, that whole thing, I mean, the bounce back's already happening, right? Like that whole space is coming back and I sort of missed it in the sense that I was helping people. But I'm not going to go back because it's untenable from like try having a family and being a dating coach. Dude,
Yeah, rough.
No, it does not work. It's extremely difficult. And so I kind of I did something really positive and I got my heart broken by the world there, but I couldn't overcome it. So like my mistake there was staying in that space too long. Like I
Yeah.
had this thing where I was like, at first in my life, I made a bunch of money. I helped a lot of people and I just wanted to keep doing it. So I put all the money right back into trying to save that. And that was a huge mistake. Like I should have left earlier because there was no way I could fight the world. Like I couldn't fight, what was happening socially, which is it doesn't matter who you really were and how much good you were really doing. You still got
Yeah.
hated on. You still got canceled. And I lived in Hollywood, right? And I just got, I was Captain Cancel Me. So
Sure.
So my mental health journey, I don't recommend to anybody at all. It's been really rough. So it's just like, I keep it positive. I meditate a lot and I
Yeah.
exercise. I try to lift, I get in nature a lot. Like I do a lot of that, but I'm pretty sure that, I don't recommend my path at all. Like the path of, being an entrepreneur, no matter what, which is what it takes, is extremely difficult. Like you just really have to know, like, look, you're gonna lose yourself doing this. Like it very rarely is it like Amazon where you start off and you're in the right time and it just you're making money on day one. You keep making money. The investors just come in,
Yeah.
But even those entrepreneurs have had rough spots. But like at some point I'm gonna write a book about how rough it really was because dude, it's
Yeah.
like. Like now it seems like it's an overnight success, but boy, getting here, not fun.
Yeah.
So
Now I've got even my tag on my Twitter account. It says keep moving forward. It's like there's so many things that get thrown at you as an entrepreneur. There's so many things that you have to deal with, but you just got to keep moving. The minute you sit down and start to let this negativity consume you, you just won't get anywhere. So you just keep moving until you can pick that ball back up again and just keep pushing forward. I think that's life. But I also don't believe that that nothing we do is without design or purpose. So everything that we've done is for a reason. And look where you are now. I think back in the space, it's a massive, and we in the space of educating people about crypto and trying to get in safely. And the biggest fear is you get that person in, and then everything gets stolen. Now all of a sudden you've got this technology, which I'm flipping excited about because it's a safe way to get your mom, your pop, your best friend that knows nothing about crypto into the space in a safer place because you can get him in and he can be safe, and then you just got to educate him more.
they're not gonna get it wrong. Like you
Yeah,
get like
exactly.
the only
Right
thing
now they will get it
yeah
wrong.
yeah right now they're guaranteed to get it wrong or get so confused that they don't want to do it. Right. So it's like
Yeah,
so we'll be putting in like in certain wallets. We're not going to make a universal wallet that does everything because that doesn't make any sense, right? Like it's too
sure.
much, right? Even though the engine could theoretically accommodate that, but like we're going to be adding DeFi, like in the Ceres wallet for Casper is going to be Casper DeFi. You'll be able to just click on it and use it. You don't have to get an address off chain, do all this stuff, connect anything
Yeah,
Web3. Forget about it. It's just like I want to stake the token. Boom. I want to give the token to the DeFi contract. Hit button. Like that's how everything works. So and we're still early stages, right? There's still bugs. So, let's stay in touch. And,
yeah,
obviously, when there's new releases and stuff and new exciting features, you'll know. So,
yeah,
feel free to
definitely.
promote them to your community. And, I'm excited to see it grow.
Awesome. All right, Crypto Dads, I started the conversation with a fascinating guest, and you've heard it. Incredibly fascinating, the technology, the background story, where it's going. And I'm just saying, keep an eye out for this project. It's just amazing. And also reach out if you are building in the space and you want to partner up. Speak to MatterFi. There's on the contact details you'll see in the link below, and get in touch. And happy building. And Michal, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. And looking forward to catching up soon. Cool.
Likewise.
The material and information presented in this recording are for entertainment purposes only. Do not misconstrue what you hear as investment or trading advice. Always do your own research. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by the guests on this recording are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of Dad's Gone Crypto or its hosts.